Good evening, everyone, or morning, whatever time you watch this. I always say whatever time of day it is when we record this. But it's me, Omar, joined by Marshall, and a third person on our screen, another guest, Cory from NAIAF Ball. Before we begin, Marshall, you have anything to say? Any opening thoughts?
No, I think this will be a really interesting talk, and I'll let perhaps Corey introduce himself for everybody.
Hey, Omar Marshall, I appreciate y'all having me on the show. It's an absolute pleasure to be on tonight. My name's Cory Thorpe. I am one half of the duo that runs the Twitter account, and we're multimedia account NAIAF Ball, uh, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Heck, you can even find us on TikTok.
No, that's awesome that you guys are giving the NAIA such a platform and 22,000 followers, I believe you said beforehand. Really a huge number. Like it's great to see that many people care about NAI, NAIA football. Supposedly, I'm saying supposedly because I don't want to insult anyone, but people on the outside would say supposedly low level football when the quality of play is high from what I've seen from the few games that I've seen. So I wanna start off and ask what sets apart the NAIA from the NCAA because that's something that's lost on me and it might be lost on Marshall too, and like pretty much all the people that watch our podcast or listen to it.
So it's a separate governing body. They have mostly the same rules. When the NAIA brings out its rule book for the year, it mirrors the NCAA rule book for that year for that sport most times. The NAIA costs a little less to be in, but it's roughly on par with Division Two. Some sports have a couple more scholarships for the sport than Division Two does. Some sports like football have a few fewer scholarships than Division Two. Um, but it's a lot of Christian universities. It's a lot of small liberal arts colleges. And like you said, Omar, it's definitely something that a lot of people should be watching. I am I'm a Florida State fan, born and raised Florida State. This is good football. Now I know Florida State hasn't been good football. NAIA has been my solace from the travesty of Florida State football. It's been that good of a product to watch.
Yeah, that's great to hear and everything. I was not aware. I didn't know that they gave out scholarships because for me, when I hear a different like a separate governing body, I kind of like put that on par with Division Three. But that's interesting that they have scholarships, and I'm glad that you're able to find a reprieve in terms of NAIA football. Don't let Jackson hear that. Don't let our friend Jackson hear that you're a Florida State fan.
Is there like any particular reason there's so many Christian universities, as you mentioned?
Well, a lot of the smaller universities are Christian there as um, they have a lot of the university systems. Like take Faulkner. Faulkner isn't a um, Church of Christ school. So all these little Church of Christ schools across the nation are kind of made into this university system of their own, but they're not very big. I can't remember. I think Pepperdine might be Church of Christ out in California. So like you would have like the Florida schools together in one governing body. A lot of these small Christian colleges have these small ones in different states. There are even ones like Kaiser who have a very large online presence that field a football team that is fun to watch, and you sit there and you go, oh look, we're in Kaiser territory. I see the Kaiser billboard. Oh wait, no, they're in West Palm Beach.
I think that's interesting that you brought up the whole online presence because when I think about that immediately, I think about Liberty too. So I feel like there's definitely like a lot of profitability in terms of merch and everything. Because going back to Division One, which is our expertise, Liberty online fans buy almost as much merch as the students, from what I heard from I forgot who mentioned that, but they all buy almost as much merch. So it's cool to have that dynamic for sure. Do you think I guess extending more on like Marshall's question, do you think it's like that, I guess, like-mindedness that has more Christian schools gravitating towards the NAIA? Because I kind of think about the West Coast Conference, almost all Catholic or Jesuit or Christian schools, and the Big East. Is it like a dynamic like that?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, even if you look at Division Two and Division Three of the NCAA, you're still going to see this sort of dynamic with a lot of Christian colleges at that level. It's just kind of the size that those generally tend to be. They like to focus on the smaller student to teacher ratios. And it's just kind of how they tend to group themselves. I mean, yeah, sure, you're going to get some big ones like Baylor or Liberty or Miami or Wake Forest that are have this Christian base, but most of your Christian universities um, are gonna be that way. They're gonna be these small colleges. I was looking up one today. Southeastern starts out with the University of Fort Lauderdale, and they're not a member of actually either the NCAA or the NAI. They're a member of the NCCAA, which is a Christian school only conference that's completely optional for NAI and NCAA members to be a part of. You can have dual citizenship in the NCCAA and the NAI, or the NCCAA and the NCAA. So there's a lot of these really neat little things that go on in the small college football scene.
That's really awesome to hear. Really, I guess more layers to it too, and like that's something I learned about a new, I guess, unaffiliated conference at NCCA. That's I guess we gotta have a preview show for that too. I mean, I did read about Fort Lauderdale, like starting up their program because I think they're playing West Florida this year. And I think they're playing another team too. I think it's Presbyterian. I think they're playing a
Yeah,
Division One school. I'm not sure if is it
it is
Presbyterian?
I actually looked at their schedule today because I'm like going, who are these people and what division are they in? Trying to figure it out for our live show that's taking place tomorrow night. Tomorrow night being Monday, the 23rd of August. Yeah, just looking at stuff like that, I'm like going, okay. And then I go, there's just NCCA. I've never seen a team that's just straight NCCAA before.
It's pretty wild. I mean, I guess maybe you can be the first to do an
Yeah.
NCCAA top 25 poll or top 10 poll. But I guess before we get too deep down that rabbit hole, I think I want to talk about, I guess, our main topic, because everyone's saying that football returns in today's Sunday in 6 days, when in truth it returns in 4 days. There's Thursday night football, so cue the pentatonics and let's get this show rolling because we have the paint bucket game, and I love bowl games, and I'm glad they're calling it a bowl. It's what is the Ag Bowl? I forget what the sponsor is, but it's like the Ag Bowl, Agricultural Bowl. But the paint bucket trophy game. I want to ask, like, where does this rivalry rank in your opinion with NAIA rivalry games? Because I see there's 118 meetings. It's a trophy game. And the schools are both in North Dakota, I believe, right? Or is one in South
Yeah.
Dakota?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
both in North Dakota. They're only 35 miles apart, which, anywhere else in the United States, if you're 35 miles apart, that's it. But, North Dakota, that's actually saying something. Um, it's a pretty good rivalry. There are a lot of good rivalries in the NAI. One I definitely would recommend that y'all check out. It's called the Franciscan Bowl. That's between St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and Marion in Indianapolis. And that is always an absolute war of a game. There's some other good ones. We've got St. Andrews and Kentucky Christian. They're both the Knights, and so you have this neat trophy that's a Knight's helm that travels. You've got one between Reinhardt and Faulkner. They're both the Eagles. They both play in the Mid-South. That's a good rivalry game with a trophy. Look. I grew up in an era where NCAA 13 was a thing. I am a sucker for a good trophy game, and this is one of the. I don't care if it's a paint bucket or if it's the $5 bits of broken chair trophy. I am a sucker for a daggum trophy game.
So what is the origin of the paint bucket game? Like, there must be some kind of story to this pretty unique,
I was looking at this and I'm like going, why a paint bucket? I can't. Surely someone from Jamestown or Valley City is gonna um, school me on this, but I'm looking over the Paint Bucket series, the PDF that Jamestown put out, and there's not much history on it. I'm like, there's got to be something somewhere. Why is it a paint bucket? I Part of me wonders because it looks like at one point both teams had a monocolored helmet. Jamestown still does. Their kind of other nickname that's not the Jimmies is the Pumpkinheads because they have orange helmets. Looks like Valley City State had all red helmets, so that would be my assumption is it comes from the color of the helmets being that kind of monocolored red versus orange thing going on.
If you ask me, I like a nice unique trophy. You mentioned the $5 bits of broken chair trophy. For me, I think the paint bucket trophy is a better trophy than the territorial cup because with the rivalry like that, it's like we get it. Arizona wasn't a state until 1912. It's still a cup, but it's a paint bucket, and I'm partially saying that to gaslight Marshall. Yeah, he hasn't taken the bait. He hasn't reacted or taken the bait, but I love the uniqueness of it.
That's all right. The rivalry between Florida and Miami is called the Battle for the Seminole War Canoe. And I just love that Florida State gets into their heads and stays there, even though they named their rivalry trophy after us. So, I love getting in people's heads.
Don't tell Jackson that Florida State's rent free in Florida's heads because he sends me messages of like bad practice footage at Florida State. It's like, come on.
There's plenty of that.
Yeah, I mean, but we're all suckers for great trophies. But with this game, well, who are some players to watch? Because I did surface level player research. We don't usually do player talk on this podcast, but I figured we leave that to you. Like there are certain guys that you had looked at for this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamestown is really trying to kind of get their program back on the right track. Brian Mistro is entering his third season, and he's unfortunately got a 3-16 record in 2 years. So he's really just trying to rebuild his team. Not a lot of offense, unfortunately, for the Jimmies last year. Your starting quarterback threw for less than 1,250 yards and rushed for a buck 14. Uh, the Jimmies have got to get better on offense if they want to beat Valley City State. Um, Valley City State, on the other hand, is headed up by Dennis McCullough. He's entering his 25th season. He's the all-time wins leader at Valley City State. They're replacing a really nice running back, Taylor Simmons. But the guy I really want to bring out is Sal Avila. He was the North Star Defensive Player of the Year for the 2020-2021 season. There with 70 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. VCSU really does return a lot. They have their top 3 tackling linebackers back. Guy with 4 sacks and 9.5 tackles for loss a year ago, and a defensive back with 41 tackles there. They were really good on defense, and they really made Dickinson State quite uncomfortable over the last couple of seasons. So really, I think this one is probably going to be a Valley City win there. But I'd like to see some growth at a Jamestown. I do like what they're doing. Coach Mistro is a great dude, and I think that they're gonna get it turned around at some point. It's just a matter of when and getting the guys in there that will play Pumpkinhead football.
Well, I mean, I'm excited for the game, and this is the first time we're watching either team. And from doing the minor research, it does look like it'll be a Valley City State blowout. But I'm hoping it'll be competitive with the rivalry juices. I don't want any Valley City or I don't want any Johnstown fan or Jamestown fans coming after us in our DMs and stuff. But we
Just
might
for
have
that,
it.
just for that right there, they're gonna be all over you in the comments.
Please send us all the hate. I mean, we need the attention, really. I mean,
Straight pumpkins in the DMs, nothing else, just a pumpkin left.
it reminds me, like in high school, like my senior year, we played against Artesia, and like they had the same like orange helmet, blank orange helmet. Artesia, of course, being that's the, I guess I want to say probably the Bishop Gorman of New Mexico football, like proud tradition, and everything. And we made a trip down there, but yeah, like I'm getting flashbacks right now. You saying Pumpkinhead, because I think my coach did mention that like more than a few times, like use that exact term. But anyway, let me snap back in. Yeah, I think it's great that we're talking about a game like this and really getting excited for a standalone NAIA game. I want to know your guys' opinions. Like, do you think that moving up the season a couple of weeks? I'm not saying a spring transition because I am totally against that, and I'm sure Marshall might be too. I'm not so sure. But moving it a couple weeks to like more that CFL time frame where it's like mid August and there's still standalone games and it's just competing with baseball really. I want to know your guys' thoughts on that.
I really wouldn't mind it all so much. The problem that you're going to run into is getting these guys in and situated in school and getting all of that going. I really wouldn't mind it though. Because the season really does end right at around Christmas. And so getting in maybe the national championship game in with those early bowl games that really, no one is watching those early bowl games unless you've got a significant amount of money riding on those early bowl games. No one's really watching those, and I would love to see the national championship moved up to where it can kind of occupy that space at the end of the year. All the coaches are big fans of these week zero games. They love it probably because of the extra bye week it gives them, but they do end up loving that, and so I wouldn't mind it moving up a few weeks. Obviously not this year because this has been the shortest off season we've ever had. The NAI played a spring championship, so approximately 3.5 months ago, we were in Grambling uh, for the national championship game. It's been a really, really short off season. It'll be really interesting to see how these kids are prepared both physically and mentally. I just don't want to see a lot of injuries this year.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I think, from my perspective, I'm definitely no NAIA expert or anything. So I'm just thinking about this more from a high level perspective. Perhaps it could create a little bit of differentiation in the product. If you have less competition, maybe you're going to get you'll attract a few more fans that are just looking for any kind of football to watch, really. And so I think, yeah, that could be a benefit for sure. Um, but I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting to see the dynamic, just based on, is this, NAIA, are we looking at something that people are loyal to already, or is this something that can attract over some of those NCAA, people who may not be aware of it. So I think that would be an interesting thing to see play out, but potentially, who knows? It could be a good thing.
I mean, heck, if people will go and watch the XFL and all these little kind of pop-up leagues that are happening. I think the spring league even still happen. We didn't get as much coverage on the spring league, but if people pay attention to the XFL that happens at an odd time of year, um, or heck, what was the league with that Steve Spurrier was the coach of? Can't even remember the name.
The AAF, the Alliance of
AAF, the
American
Alliance.
Football.
Yeah, I mean that was a big deal. I mean, if you can find a spot in your schedule, and figure out how to make it work, people will watch football. That's something that we know for sure.
I think that's an interesting point. I overlooked like the whole class scheduling and things because they are college athletes. I mean, as much as it doesn't seem like nowadays they are, I just think I feel like there's opportunities for smaller level I guess TV partners, which we'll go into later as well, but on a national scale too. Like just imagine in early August, the first couple weeks, you have Stadium, the over the air network. You have them because really all they have, I really think at the moment their biggest draws network is the indoor football league because like that's the only really, I guess, live sports league that they have. So that's, but could you just imagine like like the draw that they would have if they branded this like a Saturday night like football like double block where it's like a double header. You got an NAIA game in the afternoon, then you got the IFL game of the week on Saturday. I mean, it's absolutely electric. I mean, it would be an absolutely electric summer Saturday. So I see opportunities there, but people I guess aren't really willing to make the leap right there. But something I guess as well is if they were to do that to market the rivalries, and some people might have qualms against it, but backloading the or front loading the rivalries to the beginning of the season to really get those big games and market the history, the regional aspect, and everything, just to get viewers. But those are just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got teams here in the NAI like Baker that have played for hundreds of years. I mean, they played Kansas back in the 1800s. You've got Cumberland, yes, that Cumberland, who plays in the NAIA. There's a ton of history that you could draw out. You talk about Baker. That's Mike McCarthy's team. Mike McCarthy went to Baker. So you've got a lot of this stuff here, that you can bring out, for the NAI if they chose to do it. I would be completely all for the NAI trying to find any way for their conferences to get on networks, period, end of statement. It's something that really should happen, at this point, whether it's men's football in the fall or whether it's women's flag in the spring. They should be looking at every opportunity, to me, to find a way to get their product to a larger audience.
Yeah, no doubt for sure. It's interesting too, like you bring up like Mike McCarthy, like how much success, like I mean, definitely a very rich history, like not, so I'm just curious, like, is there present day, like what is the kind of success rate, I suppose? Like, are people in the NAIA trying to get, to the NFL? Is that like the goal here? Or is it like, what is that, landscape kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, we do get a couple of them that do make the NFL. Um, there's a tight end that plays for the Vikings, Brandon Dillon, that is a Marion grad. Krishawn Hogan is bouncing around the league. He's from Marion. Just to name some other names, the national championship trophy is actually named for Tom Osborne, who was a Hastings grad. There are quite a few of these guys that are floating around. Mike Jasper, who played for Buffalo, is the head coach of Bethel and is a Bethel grad. Snacks Harrison is a William Penn grad. So there's a lot of these guys just sort of floating around, and you'll find one or two of them in the league at any given time, and it's definitely overlooked. Maybe your lines aren't as big in the NAI, but your skill players are as good as anybody else that's getting a look. I see a lot of these, FCS and D2 guys getting drafted late. And I'm like, oh man, if we could just get a couple NAIA guys on day 3 of the draft and just have guys seeing these guys, it would be a really big deal.
It's almost like you mentioned that last part. It's almost like you need a pipeline. Like you need guys like Mike McCarthy that knows like what's up down at that level. I didn't know Snacks Harrison was a William Penn grad because he's a big guy. Like I mean, when I think about linemen at I guess any level below FCS, I think about undersized guys. But I didn't know Snacks Harrison was a big William Penn guy. I'm sure William Penn would be proud of what his school, what the
They
namesake of
are.
school was producing. I'm talking about William Penn,
Oh,
Colonial
oh,
William Penn. I'm sure he would be proud as well as the college administrators himself. But a lot of marketability there. And going on to TV, there's also a game. There's actually a game this weekend, this Saturday, the Dakota State Dakota Wesleyan game. I forget what the I think the trophy is just called the Traveling Trophy. So I mean, maybe there's a book opportunity later on for the Sisterhood of the Traveling Trophy. um, but that game's also this weekend, but it's on MidCoSN, and I'm sure a lot of football junkies got familiar with that as with that network, as that's where North Dakota State and pretty much all the Dakota schools had their games playing. So it's a great opportunity this weekend for schools to be showcased on a regional network. Do you think if the NAIA can't really partner with the national network, do you see any benefit with schools partnering with like local RSNs, whether it be like Bally Sports Southeast? That's still hard to say. I still think in my head Fox Sports Southeast, but Bally Sports Southeast, or like in, I guess, with the Kentucky schools like Kentucky Christian, like Bally Sports Cincinnati. That is really a chore.
I'm
um,
really glad I'm
and
not the
whatnot.
only one that still wants to call them Fox Sports.
But do you guys see a future, or do you think rather than a national TV sort of path, maybe instead just sort of partnering with like these regional TV partners?
I really think it's a great idea, especially if the top level conference realignment keeps going as it is and everything sort of starts to conglomerate. At the top, you're going to have a lot of these second and third tier networks that aren't your ESPN, that aren't your ABC. Obviously, NBC is locked into Notre Dame and they're joined at the hip. But that's going to trickle down, whether it be CBS or Fox. That's going to trickle down. You're going to see stuff on Stadium. You're going to see stuff on Bally Sports. Bally's going to try to get whatever they can. And I totally think that if I'm a conference administrator for something like the KCAC, the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference, where I've got all my folks except for one are in Kansas. That would be Avila, who I think is in just on the other side of the Kansas City border there in Missouri, or whether that be your mid South bluegrass where you've got them all in Kentucky. I would definitely be finding, heck, um, the Sun division of the mid South is all Florida teams. Find you a way to get on Sun Sports. Going really retro on that name, but um, find your way to get on Sun Sports. I want to see Kaiser Southeastern live on Sun Sports. That's going to be a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal game. 1, 2. It'd be fun to see it. Because a lot of these teams, and it drives me up one wall and down the other. They do pay-per-view, and I understand it. I really do. Um, if you're not able to get the ad revenue that you need to really support doing it, you're going to have to pull it from your alumni base in the form of pay-per-view. But man, sure does make it hard to watch some of these games where you're clicking on there, especially in the playoffs. Playoffs are the worst about doing it. Teams that weren't pay-per-view during the season are now pay-per-view for the playoffs. Drives me crazy. But we want to see that product, especially when we're ranking these top 25 teams. We want to see how they pass the eye test. And that's sometimes really tough when you only get to see a team a couple of times per year. I know the Heart at one point had a deal with Watch ESPN where their games were on. At least one of them was on. The Heart game of the week was on ESPN, Watch ESPN. But getting some more of these any way you can get them, whether it be with Bally, the teams in and around Indianapolis, Marion are on the Indiana Sports Net that broadcasts all their high school games as well. So that's a good partnership that I feel could go further. with a lot of those good teams in Indiana, whether it be Indiana Wesleyan, whether it be St. Francis. But yeah, whatever you can do to make someone know your brand is going to be huge for recruiting, and it's going to be huge for the NAI on the whole. Better athletes will feed in that, and it'll be a positive feedback loop.
I think that's a great point. It's something that came to my head as well with this is I think syndication. And I mean, I'm not sure the age of people that listen to our podcast, but I'm sure most of them know. But syndication, when pretty much a network picks up programming, think of it as like why your local CW has Seinfeld episodes, because they pick those up because they're syndicated, they're able to be picked up. I think syndication is good, and the conference that has a solid syndication model is the Southern Conference. And our friend of the podcast, Kevin from FCS Fans Nation, was talking about when we were talking about FCS TV contracts. You mentioned how while there is the capability for online broadcasts on ESPN Plus, which is how I was able to get what do you call it, SoCon games from where I live, even though not being in the South the past few years. But they also bring the option for sort of your old heads. No offense, it's just a playful nickname, but your old heads that can turn on the TV, adjust the antenna a bit, and have the SoCon game of the week. So I feel like syndication is another route too that could be taken as well. And I think I do believe that some of those games are broadcast on Nexstar, which I'm pretty sure Nexstar isn't that a Christian, I guess, network? I thought I could be wrong. I don't know, but yeah, like on Nexstar and whatnot. But syndication looks like a good route too. So we have more games like this, especially in a week like this where the slate for Division One is really light. But looking at the schedule for the NAIA, it's a very thick schedule. Many games. Even possibly even bring back some regional coverage too, like the old ABC days where you have not one national game, but regional games throughout the country, regional games of interest, something that Marshall and I have talked about before with the future of CBS in the coming years, especially without the SEC.
Yeah, that's nuts. Just to see what's going to be going on in the next 5 years. Yeah, CBS is going to be searching for content like crazy, and they're going to find a partner that is up there. Maybe they sit there and they tell ESPN that they'll buy out the ACC network or something like that. They're going to get a good product. They're going to get the next best product because they're so spoiled working with the SEC for what seems like my entire lifetime. Having been on CBS. But yeah, you mentioned there's a really great slate of games this week. Baker Culver Stockton got really racked by COVID last year, and I was really high on them entering the 2020 season. They have an offensive lineman by the name of Andrew Rupchich, who was the 2019 Heisman Award winner for tossing a touchdown pass. So if you want to see the height of football comedy, that's it's a well drawn up play. It's incredibly executed, and Rupchich, for the most part, puts it on the money. Culver Stockton's going to be a good game. So Baker Culver Stockton's going to be good. The Frontier is going to be absolutely loaded this year. There are 5 teams that got at least a vote in our media poll from the Frontier, who is only about 8 teams big. So, you're talking about more than half the conference there. College of Idaho goes and plays MSU Northern. MSU Northern picked up a quarterback from Nevada in the transfer market, and that's going to be a really interesting game to watch. Arizona Christian plays Division II Lincoln University. That'll be a fun one to do. I love these cross games like that. Dickinson State will probably play one. I know Marion's going to play one. I can't remember which Indianapolis team they're playing. St. Xavier's going to play, I think, UIndy in the coming weeks. I'm also a sucker for these cross games like that. So If you are looking for some football on Saturday and you want to dial in, that's the place to do it. I know I'll be writing up how to watch these games. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you will have at your disposal a full guide to the top 25 viewing guide, so you can flip between different streams like your stretch portal and everything, and watch some games and scratch that football itch.
And I'm sure we'll drop it in the description of this. But just for clarification, your handle, I assume, just NAIA F-ball. Are we talking?
Yep, that's it.
So all those listeners out there, feel free.
I gotta say, I'm really excited to see Arizona Christian at least take a head start in the race to being the best team in Arizona. I think they got a fair shot at that. I think those recruiting violations have hit Arizona State hard. Once again, I'm gaslighting Marshall, and this time it worked.
I hear it. I see it. He's the daggers. He's shooting daggers.
The gears are spinning in my head because I have no idea where Omar gets off these days. I swear.
I mean, look, Arizona Christian has the thicker kicker there, Nestor Higuera. Hitting the game winner, 45-yarder. The boy's like 5'7", 300 pounds. His brother's also a kicker on Arizona Christian. He's like 5'7", 286. I don't know where they find these kids. Sometimes you just have to watch it and just laugh.
Oh, without a doubt.
I think I do want to ask is the game against Lincoln, is that Lincoln in Missouri? Because Jackson and I talked about that team earlier this fall for all the wrong reasons. They're the team that got beat 87-3 in week 2 of the spring season.
Now you're gonna make me look. Hold on.
Sorry about that, but yeah,
No,
because there's two Lincolns. There's a Lincoln in Pennsylvania,
yeah.
both HBCUs, and the Lincoln in Missouri lost 87-3, and they kind of just disappeared from there. There's a hilarious screen cap that I've used as a meme before, for where it was like it was a 52-0 game, and it's like a 4th down, and they're kicking a field goal from like their 15, as if that's gonna do anything. It's a psychological thing. It's like the psychological victory of getting points on the board. But I still laugh at that sometimes.
It might be because I'm looking at Lincoln in Pennsylvania, and their first game shows up as September 4th. Now you're gonna make me look. They're both division. Are they both Division 2?
Yeah, I think they're both Division 2. I'm pulling it up right now, actually.
I don't see it
So
on.
I got you, Cory. But let's see.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to ask on that one.
Oh, yeah, no, because it doesn't have them on
No, it doesn't. But if you go
Yeah.
on ACU's website, it's got it, but it doesn't have any. It doesn't have a picture or logo or even a hyperlink. Like going, okay, or they just kind of finding this team.
I guess it's a mystery school, really.
School. I'll have to ask. I've got friends over that way. I can ask them. Yeah, and I'm just looking through their schedule now. I mean, you've got a couple new teams that are coming over to the NAI this year that are going to be fun to watch. Louisiana College is coming over. Arkansas Baptist has added 2 years to their school. They are no longer a junior college. They went up to Big Boy College, and they are playing. And also, Iowa Wesleyan has made the jump back from the NCAA to the NAI, and they will be playing as well. So there's a lot of these teams that are coming over. It's a fun brand of football to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited with all these new additions to it, especially anytime it's interesting. Anytime a JC or a JUCO makes the leap, it's just really interesting, and something I know Boise State started off as a community or as a JUCO, and look at them now. But yeah, it's very, so who knows? Maybe Arkansas Baptist will be the next Boise State. We'll keep this on file for 30 years from now. But I think as we near the end of this discussion, I don't really have much else to add, Corey. It's been amazing going to you as a information pretty much database on NAIA ball. And Marshall, do you have anything final to say?
No, I'll just thank Cory again as well. I think this has been a great talk, and unless Cory has any final thoughts, we can wrap it up here.
Yeah, just encourage your listeners to check out any of the NAIA football that goes on around. Like I said, uh, later on in the week, I'll be dropping a viewing guide to see some of these games. Check it out. It's fun football. Scratch that football itch with a good brand of football. You can find us at NAIAF Ball wherever you find us. I'm sure we probably even have a Snapchat that we haven't used in years. Wherever you find us, like us, follow us. We appreciate it. It's been an absolutely fun journey so far, and thanks for having me on the podcast. And look to come back soon.
Thank you, Corey. And again, Thursday night, not just Thursday night, but this weekend, but Thursday night, tune in because like Pentatonic says, the NAIA will get you crazy and wild. They got to bring back I would watch NAIA football forever if they brought back the Pentatonics intro in some fashion, because that used to be so electric in high school. Just like I come back from football practice and their Pentatonics is singing a fast-paced, upbeat song before a Color Rush game. But I'm sorry, I'm getting too deep in the memories. I think it's time to close now. Corey, you've been great, and as always, Marshall and I, we'll be back. And maybe I won't gaslight Marshall as much next time. But
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
More gaslighting of Marshall. I actually prefer that.
there you have it.
Or you're not allowed back on. I'm sorry.
There you have it. We'll see what the fans say. We'll see what our listeners say. But until next time, peace, love, and soul, everyone.